Thank you, and thank you for having me or having me back. We can jump to the next slide if that's okay. So in terms of the heat pump market in Australia, like many parts of the world, we are seeing a surge in interest in heat pump uptake for both heating and cooling as well as hot water. This is being driven by cost pressures. There is a growing recognition that these systems are cheaper to run, particularly relevant during a cost of living crisis that we're facing, and I know many others around the world are facing, and also by government policies that are incentivising electrification and in some cases driving the replacement of gas appliances. It's worth noting that Australia is a federated country, meaning that power is shared between the national, which is the Commonwealth government, and individual states and territories. We've got 6 states and 2 territories. Each state and territory has its own authority over key areas like regulation or workforce licensing and building standards in some cases. So as you can imagine, it gets a little bit messy. We do have an agreed national construction code, or the NCC, but there's still some jurisdictional differences, and there's a bit of movement around that code at the moment. So the future of that is somewhat uncertain. Now, I don't have a handy map of Australia like Glenn had of New Zealand, but we also have very diverse climate zones, which we characterise in 8 regulatory climate zones, and that's got everything from tropical to desert to cool alpine down in Tasmania. So again, there's a bit of complexity there in terms of the climate. So as a result of all of this, policies and requirements affecting heat pump uptake can vary significantly depending on where you are in the country. So again, due to that complex federated structure, we don't have time to cover all of our jurisdictions today. So I'm going to focus mostly on the state of Victoria. 2 reasons: it's a major state, over 7 million people living here, including myself, but also there's a range of programs and interventions worth discussing. So it's a pretty good case study for what we're trying to do today. In terms of regulatory approach, if we jump to the next slide, as I mentioned, we've got our National Construction Code, although the application and interpretation of that can still differ around the country. So in most states and territories, the NCC now includes a 7-star NatHERS rating, and the NatHERS is the nationwide house energy rating scheme. So this is a rating out of 10, signifying the energy of efficiency of a home. So heat pumps and thermal performance are understandably linked to this rating, but also like New Zealand, it's not mandatory in the building code to use heat pumps. So some states and territories like the Australian Capital Territory and here in Victoria are banning new gas connections in new buildings, which is certainly a step forward and driving some uptake. Also from March 2027, Victoria is also banning the replacement of gas hot water systems at end of life in existing homes. So these will instead need to be replaced with efficient electric systems with a strong emphasis on heat pumps. We've also got minimum rental standards driving uptake. So from March 2027, Victoria will require gas heaters and hot water systems to be replaced with efficient electric systems. Again, strong emphasis on heat pumps at end of life. And there are around 650,000 rental properties in Victoria. So these regulatory and other initiatives in Victoria are part of implementing the state's gas substitution roadmap, noting that Victoria as a state is quite reliant on gas, particularly residential gas, due to a range of factors, which I won't bore you all with today. Feel free to reach out offline if you happen to be interested in that niche subject. Next slide, please. So in terms of financial support in Victoria, we've got the Victorian Energy Upgrades Program, which is a state-run energy efficiency scheme that helps households and businesses reduce energy use by providing rebates or discounts on energy-saving products like heat pumps or LED lighting. It operates through a certificate system. So Victorian Energy Efficiency Certificates, which we call VEECs, are created when approved upgrades are carried out. And the certificates are then traded on a market, and the cost is ultimately recovered through our energy retailers, who pass it on to consumers via electricity and gas bills under regulatory obligations. Another government agency, Solar Victoria, offers a separate rebate for heat pump hot water systems. That's $1,000 for any eligible system and $1,400 for an eligible system if it meets the program definition of Australian made, so locally made product. And the other thing to note about these two incentives is that they can be stacked, meaning if you're eligible for both, you can have both at the same time to reduce the overall cost up front. Next slide, if that's okay. So some other support mechanisms that are in place around the country, we've got the Renewable Energy Target, otherwise known as the RET, which is another certificate scheme similar to the VEU. It offers small technology certificates, or STCs, for heat pump hot water systems, and these are available again nationwide, and they are stackable with local incentives as well. In most cases. The Australian government's also launched a social housing energy performance initiative, otherwise known as SHEPI. It's an $800 million investment co-funded with states and territories to become about $1.1 billion in energy performance upgrades. These include installing heat pump water heating and heat pump for space heating and cooling in social and community housing. And this is expected to impact around 100,000 properties with a mix of upgrades. We've got some low interest loan schemes, including one that recently concluded in Tasmania, one running in the ACT. And nationally, we've also got the Home Energy Upgrades Fund, which is a federal program unlocking $1 billion in finance for energy efficiency retrofits. This one is generally aimed at larger renovation projects, but heat pumps are among eligible technologies. Next slide. So now we bring ourselves to the challenges and opportunities segment. I'm sorry if you just bear with me. My screen's just done something funny and I'm trying to get it back. I'm back. So challenges for Australia. We've got some skill shortage issues. So we definitely do not have enough electricians, plumbers and refrigeration technicians to do the kind of upgrades that we're looking for, much less to handle our new construction needs and our clean energy build out. The lack of harmonisation between our jurisdictions is problematic. We are having some challenges with our National Construction Code, which I mentioned. So all of this can make things difficult at scale in a smaller market like ours. Our standards and regulation does tend to lag behind international peers, and this is a challenge. For example, we are only just now about to launch a minimum energy performance standard for heat pump hot water systems, and we're behind in a lot of other ways. We've also had challenges with well-intentioned boom and bust programs and incentives. So the government invests lots of money in a program, pulls that program, and it damages the market. That's happened a number of times. And we've also got some challenges with local manufacturing. A lot of our local manufacturers of these products were in gas products. So as we electrify, there is a bit of a risk to losing those manufacturers or that capability. Next slide. And so for our opportunities, electrification itself is a big option. There's a push to electrify everything, and I think that push is going to get a whole lot harder now. We're experiencing an oil crisis. I'm sure everybody on the call is thinking about that from where they are. So this itself is an opportunity, putting heat pumps in pole position for space heating and cooling and for water, and of course, obviously some industrial applications as well. Again, we've got a lot of states and territories wanting to transition away from gas, specifically to meet our emissions reduction targets. Victoria is no different, so there is an understanding that we need to do that. So this creates an opportunity for these technologies again. We can reform our standards and regulatory environment and do better than we have been doing, and fingers crossed we see a bit of that in coming months. Our energy efficiency schemes have the opportunity to be reformed. The Victorian Energy Upgrades Program I was just speaking about is currently undergoing a major review so that it's fit for purpose into the future to help with our electrification agenda. And local manufacturing, whilst a challenge, is an opportunity. Among all that electrification, there is a chance to bring our local manufacturers along with us and unlock opportunities there. So that's it from me. Thank you.